we perform our CRUD operation in SQL database. For SQL database, first we create a table. Here, create a table. Employees detail is our table name. There is the ID, which is the identity primary, which is incremental 1 1, and name in varchar 250 characters, and salary is int. Let's first run the table. Our table is created. Then we have perform a first CRUD operation using the SQL raw query. Then we must to enter the details in our the table employee detail. First we insert the table, which is the name and salary. Rahul whose salary is the 25,000 first. Then it's a we create. Then another it is the read. Read means we read the table. Here ID, name and salary. ID, which is the identity, and update. Now suppose we update the salary from 25,000 to 30,000. Let's update the salary. One row is updated. Now read again. Yes, salary it is updated from 25,000 to 30,000. And now the last in the CRUD operation, which is the delete. Let's delete the employees row, first row, where ID is equal to 1. Then read again. Here we perform our CRUD operation from SQL.
Now we create a new project ASP.NET Web API and perform a CRUD operation through Web APIs. We choose a .NET Core Web API project. This is our project. Now let's see a controller. Now we create a new blank controller for our new CRUD operation. We can perform from the scratch. Here we create a new controller, select API and API controller empty. Let's rename the controller. This is our new controller. Now we create a model for our controller. Let's create a new class as a model, which is the data transfer object. This model which is similarly as our SQL table. Let's name model. Here we get and set values through model. Here it is a structure of the table which is used to get details from the table. Let's write code. This gets it means it's stored and we can get data from this parameters. This is the properties. The name must be same as over the table. This is our model. In string we are adding the question mark. That means it accepts a null values. Here we create a model for our table. Now let's create a connection string. Here I have mentioned the connection string. You can pause and rewrite exactly same connection string which is similarly for the all of the local database. I also added the all the code in the comment in the GitHub link. You can check here. Now also data.sql client, this is the nugget packet we must be required in the project to access our the database and create a communication between the sql connection class which is the in this nugget packet, so we must be install this. Now let's create a API for the create. This is the simple query, and inside this API we must be required only two parameters. This parameter is the name and the salary. So according to this we have created a new model there which is the initiate only name and the salary, and this will be used as a model and create a object for this the model. So we get a as the input parameter from this model only name and salary. Now let's create a string builder. Using the string builder we can create a raw SQL queries in our project. Also we can directly use the store procedure, but in this condition we have used the queries, and we will create a raw queries which is query is a dynamically queries. There is the two parameters we have added name as the salary in the query. The other part will be we get a directly same as is and create a query using the string builder. Now this name we can get object dot name. This is over the first parameter name. Similarly we can do this for a salary. Here we can directly use the link queries also, but in this project we use the raw SQL queries. Now we create a communication between the database using the ADO.NET SQL connection class, which is the used to create a connection between the database. Connection.open means our now connection it is open for the database using SQL command to run our the raw SQL command on the database. CMD, which is the object of the SQL command class, we have added the our query and the connection object. Now using the execute non-query we can directly execute our the query on the database. And now we return a success if our query will be run successfully. Here simply code is ready for to create. That means we have create a post http post method. Now let's run and check with our database. Now it will be directly open in the Swagger. We can also use the Postman using this HTTP link. Now let's add name and salary. This query is successfully. Let's check in our database. This is the first old data and our new data will be added. That means we have successfully created a post method. This API which is works on the HTTP requests. Now let's see a get method in API using the HTTP gateway APIs. Let's create a root, get a name as a read. It's a HTTP get method which is as a no parameter. We can directly read the all data from the table. And we similarly use the ADO.NET. Similarly, we can using the string builder we can create a query. Here inside a query we does not need to change anything. We can just directly use the select query, so we does not need to append in the query anything. Here this type of the query we have to create it. So let's create a query.append, and directly we insert the all similarly all of these queries. But now this time we have to return the data from the database, so we have to create a data set to store the data. First we create a connection with the database using the SQL connection, which is the similarly like create. Let's create open connection, and now where you use a SQL data adapter to add a data in our data set. Create a object for the SQL data adapter. In data adapter we have added our, here we are adding the query and the object of the connection class inside a SQL data adapter. And using the object of the SQL data adapter we have add our all the data into the data set. So first we also need to create a object for the data set. This is our data set which is store the all data that we return from the table or SQL query. And using this fill property we can fill all data into the data set. Now if there is a data in the data like object of the data set, then we perform the our get operation. Now we use the for each loop to retrieve all the data row by row. This code I also added in our description box in GitHub link directly as it is. Now we have to return the data into the list format, so we have to create a list object. Here is object created for the single row as a models, but one by one we have to add this a single row into the list, so we also need to create an object for a list at the top of the method. This is a model class. Here we create an object for a list that we will return all the objects, all the data from the table. Now let's fill the data from dataset to list. And then salary is in int as integer. Here the name or the spelling must be same as our table, so it does not getting any error. Now add this data from the model object to the list object. Here we replace a model with list model. Now our code is ready, just we need to return the list. After return it will be resolve the error of the method. Let's run and check data from the database table. For this get method there is no parameter to read, so we can directly hit the our database and we get the all data that will be stored in the table. This data is similar to the our query that will return the data. This is our read operation in the ASP.NET web APIs using the ADO.NET. SQL connection class is the ADO class.
We are now checking about update. For update, this is our the update query. For this update, we need a salary and id, so we have create a model for the salary and id only. Here in the model update details, here is the int id and int salary. This will be a parameter. Now we have create a query update employees details salary, then we add a salary as object parameter dot salary object parameter dot id. According to this, we have created this query update employee details set salary where id is equal to dot dot. Now using the SQL connection, we have created a connection with the SQL. Now we open connection and SQL command class which is used to create a command. Execute non-query. Executed non-query which is used when we does not get any return. In that condition we are using SQL non-query. After this query, which is the success result, we get a success or an update. We also use HTTP put for an update. which is the similarly like HTTP post. Also we can use the HTTP post. Let's check update we will run. Now this Swagger which is opens, and here is query for update. Now we first check at the database. Here is id to cc77. Suppose we have to change salary for 2 with a 50,000. Let's update for id is equal to 2 and salary 50,000. Okay, we will update, execute, success. Now let's check. Salary will be updated to the 50,000 for the name CC. Here this is our two parameters and we have successfully done the update. Now let's check about the delete. Delete is similarly like update. Here is like first we have write a query delete from employee transfers id is equal to 1. So we just need id as a parameter. So we have to create a new class in the model class where there is only id we get as a parameter. Here we have create a query. Here id we get from the parameter and we have create a query. Similarly here we also create a connection, SQL connection. In now using the SQL command we also get a SQL command. Now check, and here we use the http delete. Let's check. Here id is equal to 2. Now we want to delete id 2. Just we send as a parameter id 2, execute, success. Then let's select from employee details, there is not. Also we can check from here also. Here is our the read, try out, execute. Here there is no id2. This is data get from the database. So here is our the CRUD operation. Let's perform the all CRUD operation. In now suppose create new query, name Sachin, salary to like 50,000. Let's execute. Now let's see in the read we can get details for the Sachin. Yes, here is id is 8 and name is Sachin and salary is 250. Now for Sachin we will update salary for the Sachin. What is the id for Sachin is 8. Now we will increase salary to 3 lakhs. Let's update. Now here is update salary and we update the salary will 3 lakhs. Let's execute, success. Let's check in read. Here salary for the Sachin is updated. Now suppose we want to delete Sachin's details. Here id will be a 8, success. Let's check again in read. Here there is no details for Sachin. That means Sachin's data will be deleted. Here is simple CRUD operation in the ASP.NET Web API. According to this we can create all the queries for the CRUD operation. Anything we have update. Here is we use the SQL connection directly here, which is the very simple form. Now we can also use here the service side dependency injection, but at the beginner this is the simple CRUD operation in ASP.NET Web API.